We have quorum, so let's call it to order, and that way, if Doug joins, he joins. Would you take a roll, please?
Jeff Romine.
Here.
Doug Snook.
Here.
Doug Hubble. It's not. Paul Miller.
Here.
Neil Carlson.
Here.
Okay, we have four. We have three present in the room and one virtual. So we have a forum.
First action item is the meeting notes from January 20. Dave sent those out last week. I included red lines and issued them to the group again with my comments. So I know I approve of them. When you guys get a chance to look at them, if somebody make a motion to accept or not, I appreciate it.
Did you amend them?
I'm sorry?
Did you make an amendment to?
Yes, so he sent them out last week. I made comments to him and sent them back to the group that next day, I think.
I move to approve them as amended.
I'll second.
Okay, any conversation? All in favor?
Aye.
That's 4 of us. Okay,
Doug just joined us.
Doug joined us?
Yep.
Hey Doug. You just abstained from that last vote. I hope you're okay with that.
Doug, you're muted.
There you
All right.
You can hear me now.
I can hear you now, man.
We can hear you now.
All right. So Doug, we just called the meeting to order, went through last month's meeting notes and approved those as I edited them or amended them. And now we're into discussion of the policy for excavators. So this is an ongoing conversation we've had that started last fall. Richard has presented last month a revised policy. He has been instructed by the city council to put together a policy. And so after much conversation, we have a document before us that allows non-licensed plumbers to install sewers on special projects in private property, on private property, that includes at least 2 manholes, is that right?
It took it down to 1.
1 manhole, okay. It also includes some other requirements that,
The definition.
yeah, it included definition of a sewer main extension. Is this the copy that you're going with, the one that I made comments to?
I didn't add I printed out the wrong one. This has got what it didn't have on this one, which isn't the one that you submit your additional comments on.
Okay.
I did add the definition, which was requested at last meeting. The staff provide a definition for sewer main extension, and that's what I did.
Right.
So then you added some other things, and I didn't have a chance to add those to this policy. So
You're good with them though, what I've recommended, or?
I think it's covered. I mean, you were actually saying that you wanted to make sure that even though they were installing them, they still have to meet the plumbing code. And if we inspect it, they have to meet the plumbing code. That's why we're inspecting it. So we're going to inspect it, and they will meet the plumbing code. But I don't have a problem with putting that language in there that you're putting in there. But I think it's covered just by the fact that we are going to do the inspections, and with us doing the inspections, it's going to have to meet the plumbing code, or we won't approve it. So I remember that's what your additional comments were, is it had to be adopted.
Yeah, and I added some comments about the contractor, and just I tried to make it a little bit more definitive on use of words, at least in the code context. So, all right. So here we are. Comments from people, thoughts from people.
I have a comment. Will the Prometric test that you sent to us be a requirement?
I didn't quite hear that.
He's asking if the test, or the Prometric test is gonna be required.
That's what we're gonna discuss. At the last meeting, the question was, what are gonna be the standards for those people that are gonna be doing the work? And my thought was that this drain lane, test that Prometric puts on would be what they would have to show at least something that meets this. It would have to be exactly this, but this is what I found, because this addresses what we want, what we're saying they should do. Test candidates' knowledge of installation, repair, alteration of building sewers, storm sewers, water lines to buildings does not include septic tank systems or systems within the structure. So this would just be for the site utility work, because they're not going to be working inside the structure, they're going to be outside the structure, and that's what this covers, the work outside the structure. So this was something that I found that I thought was covered, so they would have to have some type of testing or certification that at least matches this, and this one would be preferable. But to say this would be the only one, I wouldn't say that. Also, it was a question, I'm not going to make or recommend that we make a new license category for drain lane. This would just be for this policy, because the way I look at it, if we make this a license category, this is actually would allow them to do sewers, private sewers on private property, which is what plumbers do right now. And I would not want to make this a licensed category because we already have licensed plumbers that do this work on residential stuff. So I wouldn't want to make another licensed category for this.
In that case, I don't think we need that Prometric exam.
All right. Did you get the sound increase?
I tried to turn it up a little bit. I turned it all the way up, so.
Neil, would you repeat yourself? We had a hard time hearing you.
I said, based on what we've talked about, or what Rick just talked about, I don't think we need to include the Prometric exam. I think I lost you. We're talking about a sewer main extension.
Yeah, this is just, the Prometric stuff is just, that's the other thing. This policy and Prometric, this drain layer only would apply to the private property sewer main extension. That's the only place this drain lane certification would apply, is for that condition. That's why I'm not recommending that we make a new license category for it, because it's only going to be used for the private property sewer main extension. That's the only time that would be used.
And it has to meet the criteria that you have laid out.
Correct.
50 feet in the manhole.
Correct.
Okay. So basically, they could apply to the city for a sewer main extension with an easement that would be a public sewer.
If it's a public sewer, we wouldn't get involved in that. This is only going to be on for private sewer on private property.
Okay.
That is like a public sewer. It's so big, it's like a public sewer, but the only difference is it's on private property.
So So it's a sewer main extension of a city sewer onto private property that's not maintained by the city.
Correct.
It doesn't that nullify the word sewer main extension?
It does, but that's why you throw private in there. It's actually called a private property sewer main extension. So what happens is, it's a extension of a city main on private property. And basically, I mean, that's what this is addressing when you have manholes, 8-inch sewer line, running 250 feet. That's not a typical private property sewer line. That's actually what I define as a private sewer main extension. So that's kind of what the issue is. The project is a major project. It's not just a sewer line.
We're basically talking about a 6 to 8 inch sewer main extension.
Well, this is actually going to have to be 8 inches. One of the criteria it has to meet for it to be meet the definition. It has to be an 8-inch line
Or larger.
or larger.
The minimum size is 8 inch.
Yeah, minimum size is going to be 8-inch line.
And this is only on new construction projects?
Correct. Correct.
Not an existing, place, say Frito-Lay. If this would just be on a brand new,
Correct.
construction job.
Correct. It have to be a new project. If Frito-Lay or Mars wanted to do something to their sewer line right now, this would not apply. They would have to meet the requirements, which would be to hire a licensed plumber to do the work. This is only for new projects.
Can you guys, is there a way for you guys to share a copy of that on the Zoom meeting of what you're reading?
Let me
I have
check.
a hard copy.
If you have it on email and you can send it to me, I can pull it up on this. Or if you have,
Let me, I'll go up and send it, I'll email it to you.
yeah,
You are T. Taylor?
yeah.
I mean, what's your first name?
T. Schley,
Huh?
T. Schley, Taylor, yeah.
Here, I think I've got it.
SCHLEY, that's how you spell
Say what again?
it. SCHLEY.
You have to write that down.
I know, my last name's complicated.
Here,
Like, what did you say?
Or he said,
You
he
can
put
email it, can you
his
email it to her?
email on.
this is the one I made comments to.
Yes, that's the
He
one.
put his email on here if you want to send it to him instead.
Oh. Well, let's put it on this way, that way everybody can.
Okay.
Yeah, this is just for new projects.
Yeah, I just wanted to verify that for
Yeah.
everybody.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, there it goes. All right, give me a second.
You guys can all hear me okay?
Yeah.
So one of the things that happened on this last go around was that the code, the passage of the code was amended to include those two sentences, which started this whole big thing. Can whatever we pass have it written in that this cannot be amended? Because what I'm concerned about is that if I know, and I'm sorry, who's the gentleman with the green shirt?
Richard.
That's Richard.
Richard Faulkner.
Oh, okay, Mr. Faulkner, Patrick Grogan. So my concern is this all passes, it's very clearly written, and it says, you know, the drain layers, and it's not a license, understand that, but it's written as in they will need to have that to do this private main extension. My concern is 2 months, a year, 2 years down the road, another amendment gets slipped in, which totally revises that to include all residential or something like that, where what started all this in the first place.
Yeah.
So that I guess that's my concern. If this could be written to where it says it cannot be amended, it can only be
Well,
rewritten
I
or
think
something
that-
along those lines. Excuse me?
Your concern, I think, is a valid concern, and I try to address that by saying that, first of all, this is only going to be on new development, and it's got to be commercial or industrial. So residential is out. There's no, this does not apply to any residential activity. Also, it only applies to new commercial and new industrial. So I think it really limits the scope. It's not a broad policy. It's very specific, I think, and it's very limited, because even though it says only commercial and industrial, then it goes on to say the project has to have a manhole on it. Then it goes on to say the project has to have an 8-inch line. And I think those things start to build up and make it a very small amount of projects. And when I initially looked at writing this policy, those are the things I looked at and I came up with. Right now, if we were to implement this policy, if we would have implemented this policy last year, it only would apply to one project in our community. So that was my intent. So I hear what you're saying. We don't want it to be too broad, and we don't want to take away from, and that was one of the main things that I was hearing from the plumbers organization or trade, that they didn't want to take any jobs away from the plumbers. And so this is crafted, I feel, very specifically, and it only, like I said, it would only apply to one project would only apply to one project last year.
No, and I don't get me wrong. I agree with you that this has been very specifically written, and I think the verbiage is, I'm going to review it, but I mean, from everything you said, it seems very specific. I'm not speaking about the specificity part of things. I'm speaking more of a protection part of things, that this cannot be changed with just a stroke of a pen like it was on that last council meeting in January. That was the issue. The plumbing code book is very specifically written, but it got changed in a matter of a vote.
Okay.
So I would like, if there's a way that something could
Pat?
be written in to where it just can't be amended.
Hey, Pat.
Go ahead.
This is Doug Hubble. I will say, as far as the plumbing board goes, this wasn't an amendment that he put in. This is something that got through a city council. So there's nothing that's going to prevent that from happening, because none of us can prevent that. But that's where we're at right now, is trying to stop it and get to a point. And I think we're at an agreement that, like I said, it was one project, and that's kind of what happened in this situation. But I think with what's in there now, I think as far as plumbers, we're protected on our side, and they can, Neil and Paul and all them can also attest to it, for comment on it, but this is an amendment. This isn't an amendment that we put in to allow it. It went through on a city council.
Right. No, and Doug, I definitely understand what you're saying, but the first time, not this was passed, but the two sentences that started all this, they were passed as an amendment to the passage of the city code book at the city council level. And it was just that quick that all this happened. What I'm trying to make sure of, even though this is a new code or new ordinance, the way it's written is that it just can't
Let me
be.
jump in there right quick. It's not an ordinance, it's not a code, this is a policy. It doesn't.
Okay, a policy.
City council will be made aware of it because they directed me to do it, but this is not an ordinance or a code, it's a policy. I hear what you're saying, and I think we can just add another requirement in there that this cannot be changed without going before the plumbing board.
I would agree with that.
There we go.
Add something in there of that nature to make sure that this policy stays intact, cannot be changed until it goes to the plumbing board. We can put that in this policy.
That would be a very good addition.
I agreed. Yeah, I just don't want another policymaker to be able to come in and wipe the slate or change anything they want randomly. And with a policy, you can.
We have a policy, but we also have a city council that if they decide they want to pass something, they can pass it. We just have to, then we end up with a fight again. But we have no control over what the city council can or cannot do. And that's a given.
I am not a licensed plumber, but I'll try to surmise what I understand to be the case. The city council amended the plumbing code, the building regulations, to allow those two sentences. And there were many people who got upset because that just opened Pandora's box for water mains and sewer mains. After much discussion and pursuit by the plumbing community, which we all appreciate their perspective, the city council removed that amendment. And here we are today with where we've been in the past. We've adopted the plumbing code with the city's recommendations, amendments to it. Then the city council instructed Richard to develop a policy so when this situation appears in the future, that they as a city council can bless development services to allow these major installations. And it is my understanding that based on that direction from the city council, Richard has put together this policy so when that major project comes and the city council wants him to bless it, that he has a policy to follow, that we as a plumbing community have agreed upon would be acceptable in this case. Is that fair? Okay. I'm with you, Pat. Last month, I asked Richard or told Richard or explained to Richard my concerns that we as a community are, we've always done it this way. This is the way it's always been. I've always done it this way, and somehow that ends up part of the code. If you look through the amendments to the plumbing code that we have as a city, there are several pages long because that's the way we've always done it. I'm with you, Pat. Once a policy's made and I'm gone or anybody else is gone, how do we not roll that into become a part of our ordinance or our amendments to the plumbing code? But I think that with Richard's agreement by adding text down here that no changes should be made with this policy without review with the plumbing board, I think that kind of covers us. Do you agree?
I do. I don't want to, I'm not going to be, the only person voting in favor of this, obviously. I want to make sure that everybody in this room and everybody online is on board with this, because this isn't, I mean, this is a big, you know, I mean, it is well written though. I applaud Richard's efforts on this.
Pat, we've worked really hard on this, and Richard has worked really hard on this, to come up with something that we don't necessarily love, but it's not a bad alternative to an amendment it's a great alternative to amendment that passed. And this policy is only at the Director of Development Services decision at this time. Is that right, Richard?
Yeah, you're correct.
So I'm in favor of the policy as long as he includes the amendment that any changes need to come before the plumbing. In fact, with that, I would make a motion to accept this policy with those changes.
Well,
Yeah, no, we're not gonna vote on it as a board. The director has, the authority to make a policy without the board's direction.
let's back up a little bit. I don't.
I think he would like our blessing.
Yeah, I don't think we want to make sure that, let me draft up the exact policy that I think will work. And I would feel a lot better personally if the board did vote and did say, we think this is a good policy, move forward with it. That's why I'm here, because I wanted the board to have some input on the direction that I was going. So even though it's my policy, it was drafted or crafted with the input from this board, and I would feel a lot more comfortable with the board voting on it and saying, yeah, this is what we agreed to. Because even after I take it here, I still have to take it, I gotta take it to my boss, the city manager, and he's gonna share it with the city council, even though it's a policy that I will be implementing. It's not an ordinance, it's not an amendment to any code, it's not adding anything to the municipal code. This is just a policy that will be implemented in development services by the division director, which is me. So I would like to have the board's blessing or approval.
Well, at the present time, I'll withdraw that motion, and will you have that for us next month?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Hey, Jeff,
Yes, sir.
I have a couple of questions. So my understanding is the materials, the installation requirements, and inspections are all going to be as required in the 2018 Uniform Plumbing Code. Is that correct?
Yes,
So the only thing we've done is we've taken the plumbers out of the equation.
that is my understanding, yes. The only thing for this particular case is a licensed plumber will not need to be sitting on the side of the bank watching the excavators put in that sewer line.
Extension.
Okay. Also, I noticed that we have a requirement for CEUs. Exactly what kind of CEUs are we looking at?
Oh, yeah, that's fine. That's, it would be the same that we look at for plumbers. If we're gonna require that. I didn't know if we were gonna require the CEUs. But that's what it's in there. It says the CEUs would be the same as the plumbers, which means, if I'm correct, that we have half in the field day, half in the plumbing field, and then half can be general stuff. As I remember, I believe the state statute requires that at least half of those hours, the 12 hours, be in the plumbing field, and then the other one can be general contractor stuff.
But they're not going to take CEU classes over gas piping, are they?
Half of it could be, that's what I'm saying, it would have to be. Well, is it something that you want, Bruce? I mean, that's why I'm here. I'm not that adept at this, but it was my understanding that the CEUs, half of them had to be plumbing, and half of them could be contractors. That's not what we want. What do we want?
I'm just looking for some guidance here, Richard. I mean, you're making a policy here, so, I mean, are we gonna restrict it to CEUs that would cover sanitary sewers only?
No. Just, like I said, the state statute requires that half of them be sanitary sewers, and half of them be whatever else the plumbers use, whatever they do. I mean, you were a licensed plumber, so I mean, you know how many CEUs you got and what the categories you got them in. So I mean, that would be the same process that we would look at.
Okay, thank you.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna elaborate on that. I think I kind of know where Bruce was going with this, and I know we touched on this the last time when I kind of brought that up again with the CEUs. I mean, I understand Bruce's point to the effect of if we're gonna make an exception and you know, let somebody come in and do a sewer, are we gonna say it's okay that they sat through a water heater class or gas installation? What I guess is the relevance in relation to that? And I understand what you said, and you know, you asked me, you're like, well, Paul, what do you do with yours? Well, ours of course have to be code-related. We're also getting into a different box where we are licensed plumbers. That's kind of, so saying that we're doing a like for like, we've got unlicensed people that we're kind of making an exception to come in and do the work. I think I kind of know where Bruce was going with that. Like, should it be more of a relevance to, should those code related be very similar to the work they're doing?
Well,
Does that sound fair, Bruce?
I mean, I think if we're going to go ahead and require CEUs, they ought to be at least relevant to what the work that they're doing.
Correct.
They're not doing gas lines, I'm assuming. They're not putting in water lines. They're not putting in drain work in structures. So that CEUs over those would be irrelevant. I mean, it'd be boring as hell to sit through 3 hours of CEUs a year on how to put a sewer in. But I mean, as far as I can see, that's the only relevance you have for a class.
A point that I would like to make is CEUs, unless you're part of a union, are already hard enough to get, especially in the situation that we're in right now with COVID. They're extremely hard to get. So putting a restriction on what CEUs they have to have, I think, I don't know how I think about that. It's, you know, union guys, you get the CEUs that you need, the union insurers that you put them on. Everybody else is dependent on either a manufacturer or a wholesaler or their jurisdiction to put on the single unit classes. So it's kind of a little different, and I think in this perspective. So, you know, I don't know what the best thing to do there would be, except to accept CEUs the same for them as we do for plumbers.
Hey, Jason. I think that was Jason, correct?
Yeah.
I think there's quite a few CEU classes available online now. There's a lot of CEU trainings have gone online. I mean, they were even online before COVID, so there's a lot of stuff available. But I would obviously say any type of trench safety, OSHA, anything like that would definitely be applicable.
Agreed, but trying to categorize it, I mean, and narrow it down to exactly what you want, that could create some hardships, especially for a company that's coming in that has it their way and are coming in to do one job and they're required to have 12 hours. I mean, that's a lot of hours to try to get in one subject, which Bruce touched on. The 3 hours of how to lay a sewer. I mean,
So,
I think it would be fair to, and anybody could jump in at any moment. I would think if we're gonna step out of a box a little bit to have an exception with in lieu of a license, that would it be fair to say that if this is gonna involve trench safety, laying a sewer, that we could require 3 of those hours to be at least a trench safety and or sewer?
And
Three of them could be code related, which could be like a gas line, like Bruce mentioned earlier, which would be just a standard plumbing code, and then the other 6 could be general whatever.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's unfair to require that at least 3 of those hours be applicable to a trench safety and or something to do with some kind of sewer.
I agree.
Is that fair? I'm just
Yeah,
asking for input.
that's fair. I think the other issue here, which I want to bring up, is if this is a company that's coming here to do a job and they have these drain layers, they're probably going to be the first time they take this drain layers test. And the CEUs in that case aren't going to apply because they just took the test. So they don't have to, and that's the other thing.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Is that Prometric, is it a class?
No, it's just a test.
It's just a test, okay. I just didn't know if it was something they sat through,
No,
could
it's
they
just
get
a test.
CEUs for that?
It's just a test,
Okay.
and also, they're coming in, and if the Prometric is not a renewable certification, once you've passed it, you've passed it. So, while I can agree that we can have some things to address that CEUs, I don't think it's really gonna be an issue, because those contractors are probably coming in from town, they'll probably take this test, do the work, and they're gone. I don't foresee this being somebody, but if they do, we gotta make sure we got it in them. So the continuing ed is important, but I think that for the most part, that's what happened with this other group that came in, they did the work. I told them they needed to take this test because we were getting ready to implement this process. They took the test and they had the certification, but now they're gone.
Yeah, I just think if we're gonna put 12 hours in there as CEUs, I think it would be fair to ask.
It's 6 hours.
It's 6 hours.
6 hours.
I got 12 hours.
Okay, so even if it's 6 hours, I mean, it's not really.
It's not unreasonable to ask that 3 hours.
That's what I was
being
just saying, you would
related
just
to-
make it 3 hours of just saying that you have to have some kind of safety, some kind of trench.
Trench safety,
Yeah. I mean, and laying sewers.
Hey, I have a question, you guys, on, can I tell my plumbers now that they only need to take the minimum requirements of hours? And don't have to take, why do my plumbers have to take more hours than a contractor coming in from out of town?
It's not, it's the same, it's just 6 hours.
It's 6 hours.
Lawrence requires 8 hours for business owners, but the city of Topeka doesn't increase the hours, not for plumbers. It's 6 hours.
Did I hear Bruce say that this is just a way for non-plumbing contractors to do work? I thought I heard him say that.
you did.
Well, I don't agree with that.
Well, this is just for a specific type of project. This is for a private property sewer main extension. That's all this is for. This is not a citywide approval of drain layers to go out and do work. They can only do this work at a private property sewer main extension.
That has to be accepted by you.
It has to be accepted by me. It has to be commercial, it has to be industrial, it has to be new. So it's not I mean, it's very restrictive of where they can do this work in this city.
And how many?
I don't agree with it.
How many companies sit in manholes? I mean, I've asked several plumbing contractors, and that's usually work that they sub out anyway. Correct?
I can't hear you guys very well, but I'll just give my 2 cents. I don't agree with it, and I'll leave it at that.
Well, no, that's good. That's good. There's nothing wrong with not being, but if you can explain or share why you don't agree with it, it's going to be helpful for me.
Well, considering this is the very first time I've ever been invited to give any input, and I can't see any of the paperwork you're looking at, it's not fair to ask that question. And I can't even read that.
Okay.
So, and I haven't had any time to review any of it, so it's not a fair question.
Okay.
I don't agree with it because I haven't been given the opportunity to review it.
Chris, I'll share all
Where I
the-
sit on it, you guys.
Dan, I'll share all the information I have with you. Yes, Neil.
Okay.
I'll be happy to. We've talked about it for 3 months now.
Well, this is the first meeting I've been invited to. I didn't know that I needed to come to a plumbing board of appeals meeting to voice my opinion. And so if that's the format that I've been given, I disagree with it. And that's my last comment on this.
Respect your opinion.
Thank you.
I do have one comment on a thing that I read. It says in the ordinance that they will not be able to make repairs.
Policy.
The policy, yeah, they will not be able to make repairs to the lines that they have done. You know, they're required to back it for a year. So does that mean that they're gonna have to hire a plumbing contractor?
Yeah.
The contractor will, not the property owner?
The property owner will.
The property owner will?
Yeah.
The property owner has to hire a plumbing contractor
To
to,
repair the line.
But that,
in a warranty period?
In a warranty period.
the owner wouldn't have to.
Somebody,
We're sure
yeah.
that we
Anybody
have-
that works on that line after it's put in new has to be a licensed plumber. And the nuances of that, whether it's under warranty, whether it's the contractor that pays for it, or the owner that pays for it, that's not gonna be the issue for me. It's gonna be that the work that's repairing that line is a licensed plumber. Now, how they get that licensed plumber out there is gonna be up to them.
Fair enough. Thank you.
There's been a lot of conversation about the drain layer certification and the Promeric test. Where is that in this text?
I didn't want to put that in there and make that the only certification that they come up with. So it says in the number six, the contractor shall provide verification that the workers doing the work are licensed to do the work. So that's where that is. But it doesn't say Prometric drain layers, because I don't want to just make it, they may have something else other than a drain layers license that covers the same things that this does. So I don't know what that would be.
But must have a license of some type.
Yes, it demonstrates they know how to do this work. Certification.
Can I confirm?
Please.
So you guys said nobody's voting on anything tonight. I know you said that a policy doesn't be voted on, but Richard also said, hey, I want you guys' blessing. I also would like to review the final document after it's rewritten prior to any, passing of the board or anything like that. So
Yeah, that's fair.
All right, fair. So, Pat, Bruce, Joey, Charlie, I see Dan's already left. If you guys would contact either Richard, Jason, or Dave and put in your request to see the policy once it's edited and in its final form, please do. Can you hear me?
Will do.
All right, thank you.
And that'll be reviewed at the next month's plumbing board meeting, is that correct?
That's the intent, either next month or the next, depending on how long it takes the edits to be made and distributed.
Okay.
So, Joey, do you have any comments? I see Dan's back on now.
Well, I don't want to, this is Joey, I don't want to sound ignorant to the situation either, because I got to tell you, I'm trying to do two things at once here. I'm watching a high school kid play basketball in June and listening to this.
I can't hear a word he's saying.
We can't hear you for some reason. Maybe, Pat, can you try again? Joey?
Very garbled.
Yeah. Well, when Richard gets this policy revised, we'll ask Dave, Jason, or Richard to send a copy to Pat, Dan Biddle, Bruce Pfeiffer, Joey Selbeck, Charlie, and Bruce. And then you guys can distribute it as you see fit. I know you've got others contacts who would be interested. Is that fair? Okay.
We'll take care of it.
Okay, thank you.
I'm assuming that once that's distributed, then at next month's meeting or the following month's meeting, other guests will be allowed to come to the board meeting.
Anyone's welcome to come anytime to any of the board meetings. I send it out to all the licensed plumbers that I have in my email. I send it out to all the licensed excavators, and that's a big list. And if I miss somebody, it wasn't my intention. It's obvious that we don't have an email address for you. So I can give, if anybody's interested, I can give them the list of everybody that I sent this stuff to. I always send it out to the big group. I don't send it out to like 10 or 15 people. It goes out to at least I know 150 people. So anybody that you think isn't getting the information, send me their email address and I'll make sure they get it.
Sounds good. Thank you.
With that, I'd make a motion to adjourn this meeting tonight.
Make a motion what?
To adjourn the meeting tonight.
Oh.
Unless there's other business.
One other thing.
Yeah, we got one more item. So we can just table this subject until the next policy is rewritten and the next meeting is held on it. And then go to the next item if everybody's good. Any more discussion from the public or anybody else?
Hey, can you guys hear me now, Jeff?
Yeah, we can, Joey.
I'm sorry. I said I was trying to do two things at once with a high school basketball game in this meeting. But one thing I wanted to clarify, I think I heard a double standard there a little bit ago. I think I heard that I don't have to have a license or CEU to install it, but I do to repair it. How do we explain that to the licensed plumbers and people?
You were doing really good and then you faded off.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm just curious to the double standard that I heard. I heard that I don't have to be a licensed plumber to install it, but if it's under warranty and I have a service call, I got to be a licensed plumber to repair it. Is that what Jason said?
That is what Richard has written in the policy, yes.
So how do we explain that? How do we explain that double standard to the plumbers?
As much as possible. I think that was the intent for that, adding that section in. We're trying to limit exactly what the non-licensed professionals can do. So that section was added in to keep the plumbers more in the loop and keep the other group from taking on those responsibilities. We don't want the excavation companies being able to, from what I understand from the plumbing community, let me rephrase that, they don't want those companies to be able to come in and make repairs. So we limited the intent to just the installation and not the repair services.
I think Joey has a valid point, and I think if it's under warranty, in the warranty period, the installer should be able to handle the warranty work.
No.
But the repairs after the warranty are done by plumbing contractor.
No, they can only do installation. If it's put in wrong, and it's still under warranty, they need to get a licensed plumber out there to repair it. Even if it's under warranty. They can only do installation of new. They can't do repair.
But who's gonna pay the plumber to take care of the warranty work?
That's gonna be up to the owner of the property and the contractor.
I think you're creating a big problem there.
We're only looking at a small scope of projects.
I would think the warranty work would fall underneath the original contract of installation.
Well, if we write it in so that they can do repairs also, that opens the board up to the other projects. Yeah, but I think
When they install it and they get inspected, and they fail the inspection, then they gotta call a plumber.
Can you repeat that?
They do the original installation. They do the testing. It fails the testing. Then they have to call a plumber to make the
Oh, it's
repair.
still under construction. No, if they're doing a test, it's still under construction.
That's part of the inspection process.
Yeah, that's
Okay, but
part of
that's
that.
also under the warranty.
No. That's during process. That project is not completed until the inspection's completed and everything's finalized out. So I understand what they're doing by saying no repairs, because then they can write that black and white and nobody can manipulate that fact in the future and say, well, you're allowing us to do repairs here, but not here. And it's just creating gray area where it doesn't be.
Exactly. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
All right. No more conversation on this, right?
Right.
All right. Next one, Hills Water Treatment Plant and the violation that was brought to us many months ago.
A year ago.
What is the status of their?
So I had Kenny, and Kenny is not here today. He was working on getting those reports, and he was supposed to have a report tonight, and he was ill today.
Okay.
So I think we'll need to table this till next month as well.
Okay. All right, well, any other conversation? Any other business?
Move to adjourn.
All right, Neil, I knew you'd be there, brother. Do we have a second?
I say.
All in favor?
Aye.
That's 5 of us, I think. Doug's iPhone was muted. Doug, was that an aye as well? Okay.
Thank you other guys for participating. Appreciate it.
Guys, later.
See y'all.
Bye.
All right.
Thank you.